Okay, let me make sure I have my mic on here. So, can everybody hear me? Everybody's good? Just give me a thumbs up in the comments so I know we're good to go on volume. Just got to make sure my mic's working. I'm kind of running my home studio here. Let's make sure. Let's see here. Okay, awesome. All right, looks like we're getting people on board. So let me try to readjust my camera here. Unfortunately, the background kind of messes up a little bit. But what I want to do, if you can go ahead, and I'm going to open up the next screen here. But if we can go ahead, and I'm going to switch back over. I'm going to be working on 2 different computers here. So just bear with me. But what I want to open up is, if you're on your phone, go ahead and scan the QR code. We're going to hold off right here. I have 35 people right now. I got more now logging in. So we got 61. We're going to climb up a little bit. Allow us to give some time to respond to this survey here. So just grab your phone, get your QR code scanned, do this 2-question test. Do you have PMP, and where are you currently in your achieving your PMP? So as we get responses, we're going to kind of see. And then after this, we're going to go through a little quick 10-minute quiz question. And it really, this isn't going to count against you with PMI or anything else like that. What I'd like to be able to see is where, everyone's at in their knowledge base, traditional, agile, and hybrid. And it will kind of give you the mindset that what I'm trying to push you guys towards for like the 12 people that have said no, that don't have their PMP. Ultimately, that's what this is that what I want to be able to provide is the journey that I took from June until September 4th, and kind of go through really my reasons why I went after PMP with an IT background, what I want to do after I get out of the Army. And I think that this is going to help a lot of people that are in this group to understand, what the 50-meter, 100-meter target may be as you transition out of the military. And I understand that there are civilians in this group. So, take it with a grain of salt. Think of this as a professional development session, but this is kind of targeted towards the military audience because in my situation, I have 2 years left. But as we go through the presentation, I will be going through a script, but I will stop from time to time. And then by any means, if you want to have any questions, by all means, I'm looking on the screen here. I can be able to answer anything, as we go on. So that way, if you have questions about the application process, you have questions about, what do you have the qualifications currently right now, whether you have a bachelor's degree or you don't, how many hours. I'm going to cover all that in this and then some. And so, like I said, we'll go ahead and we'll take about, I would say 5 more minutes, do this survey. All right, now I got 27 responses. So, like I said, just knock this out real quick. Let me see how many people we have here on. We have 66 with 27 responses. So just take a moment, fill this out. Once we get to about 60 responses, we'll move on. We'll look over this response and then kind of, understand our demographics of our crowd, where everyone's at. And we got Josh in the house right here. So he is from PM Learning Pro, a great guy. I've been communicating with him quite a while. So, and I'm going to explain, there's programs out there for the military when it comes to using credential assistance. Javon, if you want to scan that QR code, that's where you can get access to. If you scan that QR code with your phone, that's why I recommend if you have your laptop or desktop, be on both, because after this, we're going to have an interaction on the laptop or on your phone going through 10 questions that we're going to review over. So, but yeah, so the QR code is going to be the survey. It's going to get you right into the Google form. And then from there, you'll be able to knock that out. So we'll move on I'll give it, like I said, we'll move on at 6:10. And then we're going to go over 10 questions that I'm going to open up on Quizzy that I want to see where everyone else is at on that. And it's point based, but don't worry. Like I said, all it is the baseline to kind of get a demographic of the audience that we have. And right now, about 31 responses, we're looking at about 87% of the population do not have their PMP. 56% have not started. And so it is a daunting task. Certainly coming from a military background, PMP can be sometimes hard because way you have to translate the language of the questions that are more geared towards corporate organizations rather than military structure. That's where you kind of have to be able to differentiate the definitions and put yourself in those scenarios, but in a civilian mindset. And so we'll go ahead and, like I said, we're going to give this about 4 more minutes. We'll try to get up to about 60 responses here. We got about 68 people in the audience. I know that we're probably going to get more. We had about 400 that said that they're going to attend. So I'm assuming that the numbers are going to jump up. But overall, like I said, let's try to get this response in, get everyone on board, and then we'll go ahead and start going there. So, all right. So the question, we're going to pop up this question. If anyone in the audience, Josh, if you could help me out with this question here, does having your PMA count as starting? So that, with the PMI and the PMP certification, and we'll go over that, what your requirements are. If you have project management, now understand what a project is. It's a temporary endeavor. It has a start to finish. It's not operational. So in the military, for instance, we do PT tests all the time, but you can categorize that as a project because we have a start and finish. And so depending on your industry and your environment, James, it really depends, honestly, whether or not you have certified CA PM, it doesn't matter as far as I didn't have any of that, but I had, a documented 60 months because I don't have my bachelor's, but I had 60 months of rated time as a project manager from the military. Okay, so you're on the phone. Sorry, Major. That's fine. No, that's not a problem. Like I said, we're going to pull up next after this is a quiz where we're going to get people to come on board and try to answer a couple questions. You'll still be able to do it on your phone there. Sorry, Major. So you're good to go. And let's go ahead and see here. All right. So I'm going to give this about 2 more minutes. We have about 38 responses. We have over 70 people right now going on live. So try to see if we can get some more people on this survey. But if not, we'll move on at 6:10. And if you have any questions, by all means, like I said, yep, there we go. So right there, Josh, thank you. No PMP requires experience. And that's pretty much the bottom line, is that you had to have the pretty much experience when you're doing the application. And we're going to talk about the application in a little bit during the presentation. But as long as you have the experience to show what you've done as a project manager, and you can back that up by, if you were to get audited, you have the references or the resources to be able to annotate who you worked with that can vouch for you. That's where you can be able to do so. All right. So I'll be looking back and forth here, but right now we got about 40 responses. We have 70 people in the room. So if you're not able to do the survey, that's fine. We're going to move on in about a minute. But if you do have a laptop or a desktop, I do recommend it. It is a little more better. It is better to have the interaction, but once we get into the presentation, you won't have to worry. The fonts may be a little small. I apologize for that, but overall, like I said, if you could do you could do a screenshot of the QR code and then be able to depending on the Google or Apple that you have. So, but it's okay. Yep, that's all right. If you're on your way home, not a big deal. So I'm just looking over the comments. All right, we're going to go ahead and move on. So, all right, let's go ahead and look at the responses here. So we have about a good portion, 35 people, 87% said no, they don't have PMP, and about 5 said yes. So, for the people that do have PMP, what I hope that you get out of this is that you can share this video, share this information, because ultimately, you could be able to get PDUs based on professional development and spreading the wealth and the knowledge. And that's what I'm doing here, of course. And so let's go ahead and look at where are you currently in achieving the PMP. So right now have not started. And so what I want to be able to provide in this segment, in this webinar, is a roadmap. Ultimately, how do you get from point A to point B? What do you do to get to your study points? How do you study for this? There's tons of resources. I'm going to explain my journey going from Udemy to a boot camp, ultimately to self-studying again, taking the PMI study hall questions. I did about 1,500 questions, and then I was ready to test. And I'll tell you kind of giving you my scores of what I was able to achieve while doing the study hall questions, because the PMI study hall is as close as you're going to get to the real test. And so I'll kind of break that down, kind of give you an understanding there. And then just started, we have about 24%, nine people have said that, halfway to being prepared to take the exam. So at this point, you should already have the mindset. And I cannot stress the mindset, because when you start understanding when you're breaking down a question, you got to understand if you're initiating, planning, executing, monitoring, controlling, or closing. And when you understand where you're at, and then you can determine if it's a hybrid, agile, or predictive, you'll be able to answer those questions, because you can identify on the test, on the PMI test, you'll be able to identify 2 answers that are probably going to be totally off. And, what we're always taught is don't ever take drastic measures. Don't ever close a project. As a project manager, you need to try to solve the problem first before you escalate it. And then, of course, the number one thing as a servant leader, work with your team, work with your subject matter experts to get the best information first before making any decision on a project. And so, I'm working on a project right now myself as a software developer on a freelance job outside the Army. And that's one of the things that I'm using is my software side of the house of my abilities within the IT domain. And I'm going to talk about that in the presentation. And that's something that you guys can be able to shape and understand, whatever your industry is. And we're going to go through the different industries and talk about that. And because what happens a lot of times, people get a PMP certification and they're applying for PMP in a blanket generalized application, not understanding that you still got to have the experience or the background. And that's where it's key. And I think a lot of people get stuck in limbo when it comes to job applications. And I've ran across people, on LinkedIn in those scenarios. And so one thing that I do want to help, so I teach IT fundamentals, CompTIA for University of Louisville. But one thing I do want to help is bridge the gap in the IT industry, networking, cybersecurity, software development. And what I want to be able to do is provide classes on just basic IT functions. And then as a PM, as long as you have the vernacular technical jargon, you can actually push a project into motion. And so, and you don't have to be a subject matter expert, but if you can understand the vocabulary of what a network guy needs to know, what a software developer needs to know, what a cloud infrastructure guy needs to know, and if you can pick up those key terms with the baseline knowledge, you can persuade a project from start to finish. So, all right, we're going to go ahead and move on. We got about 70 people, so hopefully we get more people coming in on the room, but we are going to move on to the next segment here. So, all right, so go ahead and if you guys can't see this, let me know. I will zoom in a little more. For those that are available that can log in, if you can see this here, let me try to zoom in real quick so that way you guys have this available. I gotta go to the third screen. Okay. And it's not zooming in. Let's see if you guys can you guys do the QR code, or if you go to joinmyquiz.com and then type that code. All right, we got people logging in, so that's a good sign. So let's try to get everybody on board. We'll go through this quiz here. It'll be real quick. It's 10 questions. We'll kind of fly through it. I think I only have 30 seconds per question, but what we'll be able to do is just kind of get your guys's see where you guys are at ultimately, and it's just kind of give you guys a interaction in this, so that way we can kind of see where everyone's left and right limits are. As I mentioned, we have a various population, mainly of people that don't have PMP that are just starting. So what I want to be able to see is just what your baseline knowledge is. We'll give it about 4 more minutes, so we'll start at 6:20. I'll hit the start button, but if everybody can log in, if available. I know some people are driving, so we'll just pause right there. So, Saturday, I have another webinar, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But and then next week, we're going to be doing a question and answer, going through about 25 questions using Quizy as our platform. So if you're studying for PMP, this would be a great opportunity to do a group study. What I'll do is break down questions and answers, and then kind of explain, why the answer the way it is, and then go from there, and then kind of help you understand the concepts of the questions, and then that way you can have a way to be able to tackle the test when you take it. Mm-hmm. All right, we got 24 signed up. We have, it looks like 64 watching. So, yeah, if you're available, come on, let's go ahead and join in, so that way we can all learn together here. So we'll do it for about, like I said, 3 more minutes. We'll hit it till about 18:20 or 6:20, and then we'll move on. All right. So let me get the right mouse here. All right. So we'll go ahead and start. We got 64 online, but 65 online. But if you still want to join, there's going to be a code at the bottom that you'll be able to jump in. But we'll go ahead and start here. So, James, like you're on fire there. James, you got everything right. Uh, 80%. See, a little bit of progress. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and end this. Go ahead and see what the data board is on. So go ahead and end it here so we can move on. Oh, I don't want to assign homework. All right. So, ah, I was trying to go over the questions, but unfortunately, all right. So let's look at these real quick, and then we'll move on to the actual presentation. But let's just go over here real quick. So, what is the definition of a project? And it's the answer is the practice of planning, organizing, and controlling resources to specific goals within a defined time frame and budget. So, you know, when you have a project scope, you're going to go off that project scope. That's how you're going to be able to create pretty much your high level information, your business organization. You're going to be able to utilize this to be able to create your project charter, and then from there everything else that you need to plan off of that based off of what your high level is. And that's what I'm doing right now in this software development. Right now we are initially about to do project kickoff next week. We just finalized the budget we're about to finalize the budget with the client on Friday, and then we kick off pretty much sprint 1 and 2 within the next 2 weeks, 4 weeks for our development of the customized software. Let me put myself on camera here. I don't want to talk. Let's see. Yeah, and it was fast, and I'm sorry that it was, because what you want to be able to do and what you want to be able to have when you are taking the test. You have about 1.8 minutes per question out of the 180 question test. And so one thing that I've learned when I took the test, it's either A, I know it, I maybe know it, I don't know it. And what I did was I flagged what I thought I knew or might not know. And then questions that I didn't know, I just flagged and I moved on. It's broken up into 3 sections, 60 questions per. You have 4 hours, 280 minutes total. But here's the kicker is you have 2 10-minute breaks between every 60 questions. But the problem is after you're done, when you hit submit for your break, you can't go back to the other 60 questions. So you can review the back end questions, but when you go forward and you want to take the next 60 questions, that's it. And so you have to plan your time. It's all about time management. And so there's questions that I could read right off the bat and I knew the answer right away because it just stuck out. And when you have that mindset of the agile traditional framework in your head, that's where ultimately it will come down to where you can be able to pretty much identify the answer immediately and move on and not hesitate. Now, there will be questions, as I mentioned, where it's going to be scenario based. I had maybe 2 math questions, mainly SPI and CVI, as far as CPI, I'm sorry, as far as, having to do any calculations, but that was about it. Everything else was all scenario based on my test. All right. What are the 5 process groups in project management? So as I mentioned in the beginning, initiating, planning, executing, monitoring, control, and closing. So when you know in the question where you're at, and the question may ask you, what is the first step you do, or what should you do as a project manager? That's where that differentiates your ability to be able to tackle those questions based on how it's asking. And then you can be able to look at the questions. You can either see if it's a work breakdown sheet versus product backlog. And from those 2 answers in that question, you can determine if it's hybrid, agile, or predictive. And so those are kind of key things that you need to have in the back of your mind as you're studying, as you're in a learning mode, in a learning phase. That's what you're going to want to be able to do. All right. Next one here. What is the purpose of a project charter? I got the wrong mouse. The purpose of the project charter is to define the project objectives, scope, stakeholders, and deliverables. This is going to be your high level for your project owner, your project sponsor, and any high-end level organization. And it's kind of going to be your overarching infrastructure of the project, but it doesn't get down to the nitty-gritty where you have the risk register, the stakeholder engagement plan, your resource management plan, all that. Those are separate documents that you're going to have. What the project charter does, it kind of lays out the high level, high touch of information that you want to be able to provide as you start the project kickoff. And that's what you're going to use as the project charter really to get the approval, whether it's a client or whomever. So in my project, I came on board after they already done the feasibility study. The product owners, the 3D company that brought me on board as a freelance PM, pretty much was already done with everything. So he gave me the project scope. I pretty much created all the document artifacts using an Excel, and then also Monday.com is where we implemented the developer. We have burn down charts for every sprint iteration that we currently have created. So we're pretty much taking a 3D scan of an object and reverse engineering that software to be able to make a marketplace customized to this specific object. And I can't give too much about it because of an NDA, but you kind of get the idea. All right, let's see here. So what's the difference between a project and a program? So a project is temporary with a specific goal, while a program is a collection of related projects managed in a coordinated way to achieve strategic objectives. So my wife, she works for Texas Education Agency, and she deals with almost about 20 projects at any given point in time at her director level 3 position. So she is the director of school improvements for the state of Texas. So at any given point in time, she may be working on multiple projects, and I've tried to encourage her to get her PMP. So it's a fight in progress, but I'm hoping, I think she's listening in right here. Hopefully it's something that she'll go after. I try to encourage her because I think it will help her interprofessional development, but she's been in education for 20 plus years. But that's it. You know, as a project manager with PMP, you're going to be pretty much siloed into one project, depending on if you're a PMO or if you're working for an organization. But in my instance, I'm working for a company as a freelancer, but I can still go on Upwork and do additional jobs and additional projects if I were to do, choose so. So it just depends on your workload, how much you can do. My weekends right now are all taken up, 1700 or 5 o'clock after work. My time is pretty much dedicated to the project that I've been working on to get it past kickoff. All right, next, I keep hitting the wrong mouse here. So what is a critical path in a project management? A lot of people got this one wrong. The critical path is the longest path through the project network diagram. And so you won't really see this on the on the test. I didn't have any of the questions, but it is something that you will want to know as far as your timeline when it comes to your critical path to get from point A to point B, whether you're doing iterations, sprint, or predictive, it doesn't matter. Usually how the number of days of how much it's going to take you to get from point A to point B, that is what the critical path is. What is the purpose of the Gantt chart in project management? The purpose of the Gantt chart is the project management is a visual representation of the schedule and track progress. And so the great thing about a lot of the PM software that's available now, you pretty much have those tools integrated. So you can create your tasks, your objectives, and then the Gantt chart will be created on the back end of that. In our project, we're mainly using a Kanban board for the developer so that we know what's work in progress. We have a burn down chart based on what velocity that he is creating the application as he's moving along. All right, next. What is the triple constraint in project management? And this is another term is you'll hear is iron triangle, is scope, time, and cost. So any of those changes, if you change scope, if you change cost, or you change schedule, they are all going to be affected. So I have briefed the owner of the client that's one thing that we have to inform him is because it's an agile software development, he's normally used to construction. So we have to brief him, that because of the application, if you change anything in the product backlog, it is going to change your scope, your schedule, and your costs. And we just have to, assess that based on a high level budget that we presented originally from the start of the project, that the budget may change. And then, of course, one thing as a project manager, you want to prevent scope creep from happening. But as a client, we do have to make sure, whatever his MVP is for the end product, we meet those guidelines based on what he envisions his own software to be. Let's see, what is the role of a project manager? So the role of the project manager is to plan, organize, oversee the execution of the project. And so, I can't stress it enough that a lot of people get PMP without a strong background in whatever said industry. And you have to have some backing in that industry. And, for me, I come from an IT background, and we're going to go in the presentation and talk about that. But that's the key thing. You need to hone in a craft that of when you do your PMP application, it's expected that what industry that you've been in, healthcare, construction, whatever the case may be, is what you can annotate on your application. So a lot of the projects that I put on my application, I had a cybersecurity initiative project that I did in the Middle East where I traveled all over the theater of CENTCOM and put in firewalls and IDS intrusion detection systems for specific units across the theater. And so that was a project, and it was a project that I had to have multiple stakeholders between Air Force and Army. So that's what I was able to annotate. So just kind of keep that in mind, is that when you're building out your application and when you get your PMP, understanding that you're not going to be able to pivot right into the IT world, even though there may be jobs available, you still got to have that experience is what they're going to look for. All right. What's the difference between waterfall and agile project management methodologies? Waterfall is linear, subsequently approach, and while agile is iterative and flexible approach. So as I mentioned, that predictive is kind of I wouldn't say it's a thing in the past, but you're going to see more projects now in agile than you will in predictive. But in construction, of course, you can't do really in agile because you got to lay down the foundation, the PVC pipes, the water lines, electricity prior to putting up the framing and everything else in the drywall. So, but in software, we can do almost the complete opposite, where we can have a back-end infrastructure before we even build out the front end, or vice versa. All right, last one here. What are the key components of a project plan? Is project scope, objectives, deliverables, timeline, resources, budget, risk, and communication plan. So, like I said, this was just a quick 10-minute quiz. If you want to join me in a couple, I think next week I have 1 through 25, and I'm going to just do every week or probably every 2 weeks, push out quizzes for people that are studying, so that way you have that. But we'll go ahead and we're going to go ahead and kick off the actual slide here. All right, so I'm going to go based off a script, so I don't go off into a tangent. But at any point in time, let me go ahead and pull up the questionnaire. Any point in time, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask, and I will pull up the Q&A, and we'll do that. And I'll look over here on my other screen to make sure if anyone has any questions, I'll address what I can. So, all right, so we're going to go ahead and start with the presentation. And like I said, what I hope that you could get out of this is kind of the roadmap to what I was able to experience, and then kind of take away, what PMP is. So we'll go over the agenda, kind of what PMI and PMP can do for you, and then go from there. So, all right, let's go ahead and start. So, all right, so I want to welcome and thank you for being on this LinkedIn Live webinar, Unlocking Your Project Management Potential. Today, we're going to dive into the world of PMP certification and explore how it can be a game changer you've been looking for in the job market. PMP isn't just another certification. It's a comprehensive framework that can elevate your project management skills and provide you essential tools needed to guarantee project success. We are genuinely excited to take you on this journey where we'll demonstrate how PMP has the potential to transform your career, open doors to new and exciting opportunities. Once again, I thank you for being a part of this insightful session and with us and joining with us today. All right, so a little bit about me. So allow me to introduce myself. I bring to you 18 years of service. I have a retirement plan of April 2026. Through the years, I've had the privilege of accumulating around 11 years of project management. In addition to my professional journey, I serve as an adjunct and instructor for the University of Louisville. It's here where I have the opportunity to share my real-world experiences with the next generation of professionals, contributing to their growth and development. One of my proudest moments, of course, is accomplishing and achieving the PMP certification in September of 2023. This certification reflects my commitment to upholding the high standards in project management. Beyond my individual achievements, I'm an active member of the Austin chapter and enthusiastically participate in the military outreach program. These endeavors are a testament to my dedication to professional growth and my dedication to give back to the community. And so today, I stand before you as someone who not only brings years of experience to the table, but also a passion and for continuous improvement and commitment to sharing knowledge and experience with others. It's an honor to be here, and I'm excited to connect and share insight with all of you. So thank you for having me. All right, so on the agenda today, we have a pretty extensive talking points that we're going to go over here. So for one, we're going to go ahead and introduction to PMP. We'll start by introducing the project management professional certification and why it matters. So why PMP certification? So we're going to discover the compelling reasons why the PMP certification can make an impact on your career. Number three, we're going to break down the steps and requirements to achieve the prestigious PMP certification. Number four, we're going to talk about the benefits of the PMP certification, explore the multitude of benefits that can come with the PMP certified professional. Number five is going to be my experience, and I'm going to pause it here with Vets to PM and using credential systems. So if you're in the audience, you're not military, just kind of block this out here. But if you are in the Air Force, Army, Navy, it's subjective because I've heard, unfortunately, bad stories of the Navy. When it comes to their credential assistants is a little more harder to achieve taking boot camps versus getting the certification. So I'm going to just kind of talk on the Air Force Army side with my experience of using credential assistants. Now, I use Vets to PM because it lined up to my personal needs to go visit my parents in Florida. But otherwise, there are other organizations out there which I'm going to go over through this presentation. All right, let me scroll down here. Okay, so in number 6, I think this is going to be the biggest part is the PMP exam tips. You're going to get valuable tips to help you prepare and succeed in the PMP exam. And so I think this is going to be the meat and bones for the audience that don't have their PMP, that are just getting started. Because if you can understand a roadmap to where you want to head, it's going to help you study. It's going to help you absorb the information and be able to understand what the exam is asking you. Number 7, after I pass, what can I do? Discover the exciting opportunities that await for you after achieving your PMP. So that's it. I mean, honestly, I got my PMP on the 6th. On the 4th of September. I renewed my Upwork profile, which is a freelance profile. By the 11th, I had a job interview and I was hired immediately. And I'm making $75 an hour at 40 hours a week. I don't work that many hours, but it gives you the potential to understand what's out there. Number 8, PMP resources will provide you essential resources and tools to support your PMP journey. And number 9, we're going to open up a Q&A. We'll wrap it up with a Q&A session where you can ask questions you have about PMP, certifications, and related topics. So let's get ready for an insightful and informative session. So let's dive in. And I'm going to highlight real quick Josh here. So he just wrote in the chat here that hit me up to talk all about military funding. So PM Learning Pro, that's a great organization. Like I said, I went through a different one, but I can't speak any highly of Josh and his organization because I know a lot of people at Fort Liberty that has attended their boot camp and had nothing but wonderful things to say. So he is your guy. Connect with him and he'll kind of give you a lot of information. And then right here, let's see, if you use the Navy Cool, you basically have to prove to them that you could pass the test before they pay for your voucher. And I know that goes for the Air Force. I had a couple guys, so I attended a boot camp for the Air Force. And a lot of the guys that were E5 and below were not able to take the PMP before they took the Certified Associate Project Management certification. All right, so we have a question here. How does Vets to PMP work? Is this going to be more towards Hearns? Is this more towards Vets to PM company or just in general? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Vets to PMP work. If you can re-add that, I'll be able to answer that in a minute. Let's see. Dropped on interesting blog post on the LinkedIn regarding Agile and construction today. Yeah, so follow Stacy Lamar King. He has great information. He puts out a lot of he radiates out a lot of information as PMP and PM ACP. So great person. Okay, so we can answer this real quick. So he asked in the question, how does Vets to PMP work? So really it really comes down to honestly what your industry that you're in. But ultimately, you got to remember what a project is. A project is a temporary endeavor. It has a start and a finish and an end goal. Now, a project can last a year, whatever the case may be, depending on how complex it is. So it really depends on your industry. And we're going to go into the slides and talk different industries and how you can apply project management to those. But really what you want to be able to have and you want to be able to quantify that is the amount of time that you actually need in order for you to qualify. So of course, if you have a bachelor's degree, and we're going to go into that, it's only going to be 36 months versus if you don't, it's 60 months. And then if you have a specific master's degree, it's 24 months. I knew a lot of people that didn't have the specific MBA master's degree. There's a list on PMI that will explicitly say that. So, yep. Not a problem. All right, we're going to move on. I don't want to get into a tangent. I'm trying to stay on script here because I don't want to go over crazy time. So, all right. Okay, so, all right. So today we're going to take a journey through the fascinating evolution of project management professional. or PMP certification. So it's a story that not only sheds light on the history of project management, but also a pivotal role PMP has played in shaping industry standards worldwide. So let's begin. So PMP didn't emerge just out of anywhere. It was born out of a pressing need to standardize project management practices. So imagine a world where everything, every project follows its unique set of rules. It's chaos, right? Well, that's where PMP came in, providing a structured approach to project management. As PMP evolved over the years, it marked significant milestones adapting to changing dynamics of project management. It wasn't just a certification, it was a dynamic force responding to the industry evolving needs. But PMP's influence extended far beyond its own boundaries. It played a vital role in establishing global standards for project management. Collaborations between professional organizations like Project Management Institute, PMI, industry experts, practitioners, and organizations were instrumental in defining these standards. They weren't just guidelines on papers. They were practical principles ensuring project success across diverse industries and regions, promoting consistency and efficiency. So now let's talk about the real world impact. PMP certification didn't just raise the bar, it redefined it. It set the new standards of professionalism and competence for project managers. Organizations recognize the value of having PMP certified professionals on their team. And this recognition wasn't confined to a single industry. PMP's influence transcends boundaries, marking its mark on IT, construction, healthcare, finance, and beyond. It became a catalyst for better project outcome and risk mitigation. So in conclusion, PMP, like I said, isn't just another certification. It's a legacy, a testament to ongoing evolution and standardization of project management and principles on a global scale. It's a story that transformation and adaptability that continues to shape the future of project management. Okay, so today we're going to dive into the prerequisites that you're going to need to meet the coveted PMP certification. So if you want to take a screenshot of this here, go ahead, do so, because it will help you kind of guide you to understanding what you're going to need. So it's not as complicated as it may seem, but it is crucial that you do get it right. So to begin with, you have two options when it comes to your educational background. You can qualify with either a secondary degree like a high school diploma or an associate's degree, or with a four-year degree such as a bachelor's degree. Now let's talk experience. So if you have a secondary degree, you'll need at least 5 years of project management experience. But if you have that four-year degree, that's 3 years of experience will do the trick. And then don't forget about the 35 contact hours of formal project management education. You'll need to complete these before applying. I'm going to pause this right here because I just read on Reddit, someone got audited, they got flagged, and now they can't apply. So be aware that you may get audited during the process, and it's just a random assessment. You don't know if you're going to get audited. So when you hit next, after you submit your application, PMI is going to come back and say you're audited. There's no, it's just random. So it's not like they're going to go through everything and then say, oh, we're going to audit you. No, usually it's after you hit submit, you're going to know you're going to get audited. So one thing that I will highly recommend is before that happens, well, for one, make sure you have your 35 contact hours, because I've seen people get trapped doing their 35 contact hours. And what happens is they end up getting audited without having the 35 hours. And then it's ethical code violation. And PMI says, thank you for your service. You're not eligible. And I don't know, Josh, if you can elaborate in the comments, if there's a suspension time or anything else like that, or Stacy, just let us know in the comments there to be able to answer that question. But overall, if you were to get audited and you fail that audit, I don't know if there's a time limit when you can actually reapply. So, but we'll go ahead and move forward here. So after that, they can come from various sources like training courses, workshops, or academic programs. When you apply for the PMP exam, you'll have to document your project experience thoroughly. So describe your roles, responsibilities, and timeframes experience accurately. Keep in mind that there may be random audits, as I mentioned, so keep those records straight. To apply, access the application form on PMI's website. Fill the necessary details regarding your education, project experience, and education hours. Expect notification of your eligibility status within a few weeks. So in conclusion, meeting these eligibility criteria is initial steps on your path to becoming a project management professional. Ensure you review the official PMP handbook for detailed guidance, and don't hesitate to reach out to PMI if you have any questions. Remember, PMP isn't just a certification, it is a journey, and meeting those requirements is your first milestone on that journey. So let's gear up and let's get started on your path to PMP certification. So I'm going to stop right there, look in the comments. So Michael was saying here, don't be afraid of the audit. I was audited and was simple process as long as you were honest. And that's exactly true. So just make sure when I went through my boot camp, they gave us an Excel sheet. That's the PMs did. I'm pretty sure Pro Learn PM does the same thing where they provide you an Excel sheet and you pretty much spell out all your projects. Now, understanding when you list your projects in your application, they cannot go side by side. So they can only be from this period to this period. You can't double up on projects. So make sure you contour your application to make sure that, you know, what you're covering can cover those periods of time that, you know, you're when you're audited, you can account for those. So thanks for that, Michael. All right, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next slide here. Okay, so today we're going to dissect the process of filling out the PMP application and shed light on the associated costs. So once you have met the eligibility requirements, you're ready to tackle the PMP application. Attention to detail is key here, as accurate is paramount to avoid delays and complications. So most commonly, you'll complete the application online through PMI's official website. This means creating a PMI account certification system. The application typically covers personal information, education, project management experience, and project management hours. To make things smooth, gather all your necessary documents and information in advance. So here's a crucial tip. Meticulously review and proofread your application before submission to ensure that all the details are correct. Now, let's discuss the financial aspect. And like I said, I'm going to pause it right here. So understanding, you know, even as me for the military, I use credential assistance. I still paid out of pocket for a few of these items that are here. I'm gonna hide myself real quick. So I'm gonna kind of go down and let me get my cursor so that way you guys can see. And I'm gonna highlight a little bit of what I spent, so that way you can kind of get an understanding. Even if you are using credential assistance, the $4,500. There are going to be a few things that you I would recommend. It's not necessary, but I would recommend to pay out of pocket unless it is wrapped into the into whatever you're paying for on your boot camp. So let me get rid of this magnifying glass here. Sorry about that. All right, so the PMI membership. I would highly recommend the PMI membership. And the reason being is that when you get a PMI membership, it takes the cost off of the actual exam itself, but it's an invaluable thing to have. And the reason being, I was able to use the PMI membership and then, of course, join as a chapter for the Austin chapter here in Texas. And it's just a great network to have of people. Exam without membership. So if you are not using credential assistance, if you're a civilian, then that's where that cost is going to be. Exam with membership. So if you can see here, it kind of wraps in to it. So the 405 with the membership kind of makes sense. Just get the membership. I kind of stopped my foot on that one. The Udemy course. So if you are in the military, Air Force, there's an Air Force website. If someone can leave a comment of that, it's digital.af.mil, I believe. I can't think off the top of my head. That is for free. So I went over, before I went into my boot camp, I ended up taking Udemy, Andrew Romaldi's course. And then that was able to pretty much tackle that for free. I went through his whole course. I went through it probably twice in a lot of the modules. I used 1.52 times speed and zipped through it, learned it, and then moved on. Went to my boot camp, did a little bit of refresher in the boot camp, reiterated things that I needed to know, went into full study mode with 1,500 questions, passed on first time go above target. And then the last one here, I cannot recommend this enough. If you want as close, sorry about the ink there, as close to the real test, Study Hall PMI Study Hall is as close as you're going to get to it. And we'll go ahead and pause here. We got a couple of questions. Is the Udemy course satisfy the 35 academic hours? Yes. So if you go through Joseph Phillips or Andrew's course, you have to complete it, and then you have to reach out to them, and then they'll distribute the certification of completion. So that is an absolute yes. So make sure that you do complete all the modules, and then they will provide you that. Yep, there it is right there. Thank you. So digital u.af.mil. I do believe you need a CAT card and a .army, .air force, whatever you email exchange. They will require you to do that. Here's another question from Kimberly. Is there a template somewhere that we can use to gather and review all our project information before starting the PMI application? And so that one's subjective. Honestly, to be honest with you, I had to go through, for being in the military, I went through like a lot of my previous assignments, and it really helped me to gather all that information and catalog exactly what I did that was considered a project. And remember, anything can be a project. Whatever jobs that you've held, as long as it's not part of the operational daily expenditures, it's a project. So can anyone assist me, provide me with information on how I can document 20 years of heavy equipment and construction? I assume I would have to provide. So one of the things, Kellen, that you're going to have to be cognizant of is that you have to have it documented. I believe it has to be either 6 years or 8 years from when you submit your application. So if somebody, Stacy or Josh, can drop in, just kind of clarify that. But there is a time limit of when you can submit your application based on the projects, that they have to be within a certain amount of years. And see here, Tim, can you use a program called Air Force Cool? Yes. So Jonathan, yes, you can. I know you're Army, but maybe if you have colleagues. So my class that I did, Vets to PM, we're all Air Force. There's a guy, Christopher, Chief Master Sergeant Wagner. I'm sorry if I messed your name. I know him by Chris. He can kind of give you a little bit of information if you want to reach out to him in the comments. Okay, thank you, Stacy. It is 8 years. So as long as you do this within 8 years, you're good. And then, yep, definitely agree that with using Study Hall, it is. So, but yep, yeah, not a problem. And like I said, so as long as you have that in within 8 years there, you're perfectly fine. So we'll go ahead and move on. If there's no other questions, like I said, I'll be monitoring the comments here, but if Stacy or Josh are on still, by all means, go ahead and answer some of them on my behalf. Okay. Come on, PowerPoint. There we go. Okay. So we're going to go over the benefits of PMP. So we're going to cover career opportunities, enhanced project management skills, global recognition, and network opportunities. And I can't stress this enough, the network opportunities. So I just went to my first PMI chapter event yesterday. And after I kind of explained, so our topic was about the Gen Z and how they are integrated into the corporate world. And so I kind of gave a different perspective from the military of what I've experienced with Gen Zs, and that, how they're, tied into the phone just like everybody else. And I created an app for our equipment, and I showcased it to the guys. And so one of the vice presidents, Mike, who also happened to be retired military Army guy, pretty much asked me to be their social media content person. So I obliged, and I said, that's why I came here anyways, because I do want to be more part of the military outreach program for Austin and the Fort Cavazos area. But ultimately, like I said, networking is key. There were guys there. So we had a blue-green dot meeting, meaning that if you're green, you were an employee looking for people with PMP. If you're blue, then you're looking for a job. And there were quite a few people with, that just unfortunately in the IT industry, there's a massive, resignation layoff that is happening right now. And so that's unfortunate in the Austin area because it's heavy IT. There were quite a few people there. All right. So So we'll go ahead and go on. And all right. So the career opportunities, sorry about that. All right. So PMI's versatility extends beyond job roles. It's credentially highly valued across various industries, including but not limited to information technology. So information technology, where PMP certified professionals manage software development, IT infrastructure, and digital transformation of projects. So I'm going to pause it right there because I want to explain my background is in IT. So I have about, as a warrant officer, a signal warrant officer, I'm a 255 November, which is a network technician or network engineer, however you want to say it. My job is pretty much to manage the transport of the Army Tactical Network. But I've also been well-versed in cybersecurity practices, cloud infrastructure. I do software development on the side, and that's how I was able to land my software development project management position with this company out of Dallas, because I was able to translate things that I did in the Army, but then also on the side, I developed apps to include the PMP audio study guide. And so that was able to give me that pivoting role to that. And so what I mentioned before in the beginning, and I posted that today, is that with PMP, can I get into the IT world? Absolutely. And if you can understand the vernacular definition of IT and what the foundations are in the language, how network guys talk, server guys talk, cybersecurity guys talk. If you can understand the language, you as a project manager can be able to put yourself into those positions based on that. And the one thing I can tell you, if you're brand new to IT, is learn the OSI model. The 7 layers, you can't go wrong there. And then cybersecurity, CIA, confidentiality, integrity, and availability. You learn those 2 things there, you could be a project manager in IT. I guarantee you. All right. Okay, so we'll move on to construction. So the construction industry is where they oversee building projects, infrastructure development, and renovation. As I mentioned with construction, that's going to be more of a predictive and waterfall because of how you have to be able to build in pretty much milestones in order to make a house a house. You can't just put the framing up, put the foundation down, and then the electricity and everything else. Those are things that have to subsequently go in linear fashion in order for you to be able to build one thing at a time. And that's one thing my instructor, Keith Robbins, said. He was a retired colonel in the Army. He works as a project manager construction for the state of Louisiana. He mentioned that, it's just like you can't use Agile in majority of the project. Now there's certain points, and that's where hybrid comes into play. But most of the time when you're in construction, it's going to be most of the time predicted. Healthcare. So healthcare, ensuring that successful medical system implementation, facility expansion, and healthcare IT projects. All right. Finance, handling finance system upgrades, risk management, and regulatory compliance projects. Manufacturing, leading processes, improving supply chain optimization, and quality control initiatives. Consulting providing project management expertise to clients in diverse industries. So on Upwork, if you have a background in something other than IT, there are consulting positions available. If you learn Asana, Monday.com, Jira, Trello, you name it, there's plenty of PMP softwares that are out there, web-based, that you can learn. And there's people on Upwork that just want to have a consultation with a project manager or PMP certified project manager to get your insight, your professional insight on those platforms, which one is best for their organization. All right. Government, of course, within the government, managing public sector projects, infrastructure development, and policy implementation. Aerospace and defense, overseeing complex projects such as aircrafts, development, and defense initiatives. And so, of course, in the DoD infrastructure, there are always PMP jobs or project management jobs with PMP. A matter of fact, I had a gentleman on LinkedIn reach out to me, ask me when I get out of the Army. I have a wireless LAN project across all the Army bases, looking for a project manager to kind of go to different installations across the CONUS or the United States and be that voice for the engineers to get the project, off the ground. And ultimately what they're going to be doing is replacing the wiring of the Cat5 across all the installations in the Army to a wireless infrastructure so you don't have to plug in your computer. All right, the energy sector, where they manage large-scale energy projects, renewable and energy initiative, and the oil and gas ventures. Nonprofits, ensuring that efficient execution of initiatives, fundraising campaigns, and community projects. So in essence, PMP certification is just a career step. It's a career leap into the world of diverse possibilities and industries. Whether you're eyeing a specific job role or looking to pivot into different industries, PMP offers a passport to world of opportunities. So as you ponder your next career move, consider the boundless potential that PMP certification can unlock for you. All right, so let's go ahead and explore the invaluable enhancement of project management skills that come with PMP certification. So PMP takes you on a journey through a diverse array of knowledge areas, equipping you with a robust skill set for successful project management. To begin, let's dive into the 10 critical knowledge areas. So we're going to kick off with project integration, where you'll learn to unify project components and ensure everything works seamlessly together. Then comes the scope, time, cost, and quality management. These are the cornerstones of any project success. PMP ensures you master these three elements to achieve excellence. Human resources and communication management teach you to harness the power of your team and ensuring effective project communication. Risk and procurement management also in the spotlight. By mastering these, you can identify, mitigate, manage risks, and while effectively procuring project resources. So I'm going to pause right there. With risk, so for instance, in my current project, we have a risk management register where I've identified pretty much from a software developer side, okay, well, what if the front-end developer isn't capable of meeting the sprint iteration plan? What is my mitigation, or what is my risk response? Most likely it's going to have to be to hire another developer. We may not have to change a budget because what we currently have in our sprint iteration or estimation of cost may not have to change. We just need another guy to come on board within the budget that we initially planned to be able to put on another person, so that way they can help with the progress or the definition of work. All right, so finally, the stakeholder, I got to move down here. Finally, the stakeholder management empowers you to engage and manage the diverse interests and influences involved in a project. So PMP emphasizes the application of industries, proven best practices, and methodologies. These best practices are distilled from collective wisdom and experience of project management professionals worldwide. By applying the best practices, you'll be better prepared to navigate the entire project lifecycle. From initiation, planning to execution, monitoring, control, and closure, you'll do it efficiently and effectively. Efficiently and effectively are pretty much at the heart of PMP. So PMP equips you with the skills to streamline the project workflows, leading to faster project completion and cost savings. So ultimately, to get out of this right here, like I said, is that as long as you know for the exam, scope, cost, and time, and that any of those change at any point in time, if a question asks you that, what your next steps are. First and foremost is going to be review and analyze. Do that with the team. And then if you can't solve it, then elevate it up to your project sponsor, project owner. And, at any given point in time, you have to make those decisions to turn a risk into an issue and then put it into your issue log. All right. So networking opportunities. And this is, like I said, this is as powerful as I can get when it comes to you being part of the chapter. And this is something that Keith Robinson stressed during the boot camp that I attended, that he was part of the PMI chapter, but I can't stress it enough that how helpful it can be to network with people. And I can't, when I got there yesterday or last night to UT Austin's campus, people were pretty much in open arms, shaking hands, introducing themselves. And then I started running into vets And then a couple of the VP members started noticing, my energy. And then it was just kind of like an attraction of people wanting to introduce themselves. And like I said, that's who I am. I'm a people person. So today we're going to dive into the transformative power of networking in the professional world. Networking isn't just about making connections. It's about forging relationships, sharing knowledge, and catalyzing your career journey, joining a PMI chapter and its community. So let's begin exploring the incredible networking opportunities that PMI brings to your fingertips. So first off, the PMI connections. So PMI offers a vast network through local chapters across the region, a vibrant online communities. These are your portals to the world of project management expertise and collaboration. Local engagement, as I mentioned, when you join a PMI chapter, you unlock access to local events, workshops, and seminars where you can meet and engage with like-minded professionals. It's a perfect breeding ground for professional connections. And then, of course, the global reach. PMI's online communities transcend borders, ultimately. They unite professionals worldwide, fostering knowledge and sharing and collaboration across oceans and continents. So I'm going to pause right there. So I know that the PMI Global Conference is October 25th, I believe, until I want to say the 28th. And I know Matt Quick, I don't know if he's been in the comments yet, but I know Matt, I've been talking to him quite a bit. He's a very outspoken PMI for military outreach. He's a guy that I'm going to be working with in the future, but he's going to be speaking at that global conference where pretty much they have, I think, about 3,500 people signed up for. So, understanding the networking of what the collaboration can do for you to be able to get your foot in the door and then help you along your journey as you build your knowledge base. So collaborating with others, professionals. So let's talk about the power of collaboration with other professionals in your field. The synergy of networking with fellow project managers, industry experts isn't just about exchanging business cards. It's about cultivating new project partnerships and uncovering fresh opportunities. The art of sharing, so sharing experiences and insights with your peers, is a wellspring and creative problem solving. Each conversation is a potential solution waiting to be unearthed. And of course, building a support system. So beyond opportunities and partnerships, networking plays a crucial role in building your support system. And the network safety net, your network isn't just about business. It's about seeking advice, mentorship, and guidance from experienced peers who walk the path. Strength in numbers in times of challenging projects or career transitions, your professional network becomes a fortress of support. Your success is their success and vice versa. And so I can't stress enough, as a warrant officer, I have a collective amount of connections. And one thing that I always try to do in the Army is never burn bridges. Even if you might not get along with that person at that period of time. I try to never burn bridges because you never know where they might be in their life after the military. And so it's always important. So for me, my motto on my profile is I'm like a Cisco router. I push people to their destination, just like a Cisco router traverses the network and pushes data across to their destination. That's how I kind of look at myself. And so, as networking, that's what you can be able to utilize as people. And you got to remember, people hire people. Your resume may get your foot in the door, but it's ultimately people. And one thing I've learned in the IT industry, it's not about what you know, it's who you know. The power of listening. So first, practice active listening during networking interactions. It's not just about speaking, but also hearing and understanding and give and take. So networking is a two-way street, offers value to your network. Don't just seek it. Share your knowledge, insight, and expertise. And of course, follow up. Remember, networking doesn't end with the first handshake. Follow up with your connections to nurture and maintain those relationships. And of course, the digital presence. In today's digital age, maintain a professional online presence. Platforms like LinkedIn are powerful tools to showcase your expertise. So, make sure you have to be cognizant of what you post online. If you're on Twitter, Facebook, whatever the case may be, things can kind of, circle back. So just be kind of cognizant of that. In conclusion, networking isn't a side activity. It's a career catalyst. It opens doors, fuels creativity, and builds support systems and propels you forward. As we wrap up, I encourage you to actively engage in networking activities and leverage the resources available like organizations like PMI. Okay. All right. So we'll go real quick through this here. This is just about the global recognition. So I won't go through the script because I want to get really to the PMI exam tips. But with the global recognition, PMI is a well-known certification across the globe. Everyone that has it in different countries, it's well recognized. And so whether you are stateside or you want to get a job somewhere over Germany or in Europe, wherever the case may be, if you have a DoD job, that certification will follow suit. So we'll go on and move on to the next slide because, like I said, I want to be able to get into the exam tips. Real quick here. So this is from the PMI, according to the Project Management Institute. The average annual salary for a non-certified project manager in the United States hovers around $93,000. It's not too shabby, right? Well, here's where it gets interesting. Those folks with the project management certification, like myself, well, they're in their league of their own. PMP earns an average of $123,000 per year, which is a whopping 32% increase over their non-certified counterparts. So now hold on, because that's not all, is that the actual salary bump you experience can be influenced by a multiple variety of factors: your level of experience, the industry you're in, the region where you work, and even the specific job role that you play can determine how high your salary can go. But here's a real kicker. PMP isn't just about earning more money. It's about getting hired faster. So picture this: you got a PMP certification, but you have it listed on your resume, you instantly stand out from the competition and employers take notice. So that translates to quicker jobs and faster paths to your dream career. So whether you're looking to boost your earning potential or fast track your way into an exciting new roles, PMP certification is kind of your golden ticket. And I'll pause right there. I had a gentleman, I was on another webinar today, and that was one of the questions. Was the guy said that I don't like getting certification until I get hired, but I responded back and I said, well, a lot of the jobs won't hire you unless you have the certification. The certification isn't about, you being able to have the competency to do the job. It's at the minimum that you are capable and you're qualified to do the job. Now, you may be able to pass the certification, but you may not know anything, and it's going to show, unfortunately, in the interview. So you have to craft yourself and your background knowledge with your certification. And that's where it's key. Depending on the industry you go into, you want to make sure that you have that baseline knowledge or that experience that they're also requiring as a PMP certification. All right. So this is where I'm going to kind of go in and explain my story. So, this is going to be geared towards the military members in the crowd. I'm going to pause. So if you have any questions, that you may have, I want to share my personal journey. And so it began with an invaluable mentorship with a retired CW5, Chief Warrant Officer 5, who looked over my LinkedIn profile and he asked me a profound question. He wondered if I ever thought about pursuing my PMP certification. And so at one point, he made that struck a chord with me over his observation that I was well versed in multiple domains in the IT industry, including networking, services, software, cybersecurity. It was the encouragement and recognition of my skills that ignited my journey towards the PMP. So before I even considered the formal training, I decided to get a jump start on learning, and that's when I enrolled in the Udemy course to get a baseline knowledge. This was the early steps, which was crucial in building my confidence. With the mentorship and the Udemy course under my belt, I embarked on a path that led me to attend a Vets to PM bootcamp program in Shalimar, Florida. What made this journey even more remarkable that the entire training program was paid for fully by the Credential Assistance Program. So now some of you might be wondering about the mode of training, whether it was in person or virtual classroom. Well, that's the great thing about this is that various options exist within the military, catering to different preferences and situations. But the story doesn't end there. It's a journey that flows seamlessly into the next chapter. You see, PMP training for the military taught me something that is invaluable: the power of adaptability. And in the military, we understand that circumstances can change in an instant. You might be deployed to a remote location, or you might find yourself in the heart beating of a bustling base, such here as, Fort Cavazos. But that's the beauty of PMP training shines through. It offers the flexibility, whether it's in-person sessions where you can engage face-to-face with instructors, or peer or virtual classrooms that brings the knowledge to your fingertips wherever you're at. So the choices are yours. It's not about earning the certification, but unlocking the new horizons. The military gives us a strong foundation, but the PMP training equips us with the skills that transcends borders. As military professionals, you understand that the world doesn't operate within confines of a single base. Project management is a global language, and PMP is your passport to speak it fluently in any terrain. So as we navigate the world of PMP training within the military, remember that adaptability is your ally, and learning is your compass guiding you through uncertain territories. Our journey continues, and there's so much more to discover. So let's embrace every opportunity, seize every moment, and forge a path that leads to excellence. So if you have any questions, just write them in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer them to the best of my ability. But I think we've answered a lot about the military side of the house, so we could kind of go on and move on to the next slide. And I think this slide here is going to be probably the meat and bones of this presentation. Unfortunately, I lost a lot of people because it's kind of gone on pretty long. And I'm sorry, but you can go back. This will be posted live recording on there. So let's see here real quick. Ismail, you have regarding IT and cloud infrastructure. Does PMP cover continuous integration? No, it doesn't. It does talk about as far as like from a project perspective and agile, it does talk about CI, CA, but it doesn't specifically talk about IT in terms of, now agile does, because agile was initially developed for the software infrastructure. So when it comes to continuous integration and continuous CI/CD, it comes down to organizational, cross-functioning skills of what you can do as a project manager with the team that you have. So for instance, in my project that I'm doing right now is that we're right now in the prototype stage. We have a phase 1, phase 2, leading up to production by the end of the first quarter of 2024. And so we understand that within the prototype phase, working with the client, that the product backlog may change. And so we have to understand that the continuous integration and the quality assurance in the software is meeting the needs of the client as he's moving around the country or wherever he's going with the equipment that we're ultimately building for him. So really, if you were to do actual agile Scrum Master, you're going to get more of that language in there, but PMP kind of encompasses it in a, I would say, overcompassing kind of construct rather than specific guidelines. But that's kind of where I can't stress enough that if you have that background from software development already integrated into your repertoire, you're going to be able to kind of, implement that as a project manager because you already know the processes for continuous integration. So hopefully that answered that there. But that's just kind of, from my point of view of how I'm approaching it from a software development side with the cloud infrastructure. All right. So we're going to dive right here. And I know this is, like I said, this is probably going to be the most important slide out of this whole class. So we're going to dive into essential PMP exam tips that can help you navigate this challenging but rewarding journey. So know the PMBOK guide. Start by becoming intimately familiar with the PMBOK, or the Project Management Body of Knowledge Guide. It's a foundation to the PMP exam, and understanding its concepts is crucial. I'm going to pause that there because I did buy the PMP edition PMBOK 7. I wish I never did because honestly, I didn't need it. So when you get the membership, the $149 that I mentioned earlier, you get a PDF version of that, which makes it a lot easier to control F. Now, the PMBOK guide version 7, it's not a book that you can read back and forth. So, you can use it as a resource, but I wouldn't, honestly, like I said, I wouldn't buy the book like I did. I would just get the membership, and then the PDF is included with that. So just kind of a food for thought. Create a study plan. So develop a structured study plan, break down your preparation into manageable chunks, and allocate specific time slots for each domain. One thing that I'm going to be building on the app is going to be, so if you have already downloaded, and I'm going to show that at the end, the PMP audio study guide. So I created the study guide, for my sake before when I was studying that I'm an audio learner. So I constantly was just absorbing information through audio and I'd listen to it over and over again. So what I did was I took a lot of the notes, ran it through ChatGPT, and then I have an audio subscription called Speechify, and I ran it through AI to pretty much create a podcast style learning platform. So at the end of this, with the resources, I'll share the app if you haven't downloaded it yet. But ultimately, what I would suggest for you, if you're at the beginning, make sure you have a roadmap to get from point A to point B, because one last thing you don't want to do is you don't want to burn yourself out. So, and how I can break that down is your business domain, your people, and your processes. And as you start studying the study hall exam questions, that's where that's going to come into play. So just kind of be prepared as you understand where you want to start heading. I would honestly start knocking out tests or quizzes in the beginning. My suggestion, and you'll see in here, test early, test often. So practice. So practice is key. Take as many PMP exam practices as possible. It not only assesses your knowledge, but also helps you get used to the exam format. So a week before I started before I was supposed to take the test, I blocked off that whole week. I took leave. In the military, we take time off. I took a week off. My initial exam date was going to be on a Friday, but something happened on the PMP exam website where it wouldn't allow me to book. So I was like constantly in communication with Vesta PM and also PMP, regional or the North American customer service. They were eventually able to fix everything by Friday. And then I was able to book Friday to Waco on Saturday. So I took my exam on Saturday. But beforehand, Monday I studied. Tuesday, Wednesday, I did just straight 175 question pre-test exam. Went to the library, sat down for 4 hours, did the 60, 10-minute break, 60, 10-minute break, 60, 10-minute break. Did that on Tuesday, rinse, wash, and repeat. Wednesday, did the same thing. What scared me about taking the pre-test exams, I still had about an hour and 30 minutes. And here's the crazy part. So in PMI study hall, you have expert questions, but the expert questions, they're not on the test. I'm just going to be completely transparent. There are no expert questions on the test. They're going to be mainly difficult or moderate. So on study hall, you can assess your scores based on the moderate, easy, and difficult questions. And so when I did the test, I took away the expert questions. The first exam, I scored a 86. The second exam, I scored a 76. And I was able to finish those, like I said, in respectively about an hour and 30 minutes. And I was not trying to go fast. So just kind of be cognizant of your time. Take your time, but you don't want to go too slow. So next up is understand the question structure. Pay attention to the question structure. PMP questions can be complex, so read them with, carefully. Look for words like not, except, or most likely. And then that way you can be able to determine the questions and how they're structured or where they're going to be, where the question is heading to where the answer is going to tell you. And probably I would say 8 out of 10 times the question to answer, the question is going to be in the answer itself. And you'll see that. So time management. So time management is crucial. You have around 1.8 minutes for each question. If you're stuck, flag the question and move on, come back to it later. And then that's what I mentioned earlier. But my strategy was I had three ways. I either knew it, possibly knew it, or I didn't know it. I would answer to the best of my ability for the questions that I thought I might know, that I was like 50-50, but I would still flag it, move on. Questions I didn't know, I didn't even try. I just flagged it, moved on, kept going, then went back. Before my break, I went back and made sure that, I answered those questions. 6, focus on weak areas. Concentrate on your weaker areas. Identify your knowledge gaps and allocate more study time to these domains. So, of course, for me, I'm a people person. So I was well above and beyond the people person, people domain, but the processes got me sometimes because, like I said, you got to understand where you're at in the process domain, whether you're in hybrid, agile, predictive. So when you're able to delineate those frames and where you're at, then that's going to be pretty much the ability for you to be able to get to that point. Kimberly asks, I have Rita's 10th edition exam book. Is that edition relevant? Yes. I've talked to people on Reddit. People have used that on Reddit. There was another person, I think, that was in a group that I talked to. Oh, I want to say they brought it up yesterday in my chapter meeting that I guess the author passed away and they're still using the name, selling the book as is. But yeah, like I said, that is still relevant. But really what you need to knock out when it comes to learning anything is just the mindset. And I think you've downloaded my app, and that mindset audio portion will give you pretty much everything and anything that you're going to need after you get past your learning phase and you're just absorbing information. All right. And then for people on Facebook, these are questions on LinkedIn. So you can leave questions on Facebook if you want, but majority of my audience are going to be on LinkedIn. All right. Next up, join study groups. So consider joining study groups. Discussing concepts with peers can provide new insights and clarity. So one thing that I did that I believe that helped me with Study Hall, unfortunately for me, it didn't break down the question and answers very well. So what I would do, I would open up ChatGPT, copy the question and answers, and ask ChatGPT, can you please break down why I got this question wrong and why the answer is the way that it is? And it would literally line by line tell you exactly why that question was structured the way it is and I would specifically say using the PMI mindset. So it would literally queue or query based off of whatever it knows in the database and give me those explanation of answers. And like I said, it was monumental when it came to my studying plan. All right, take care of yourself. So don't forget about self-care. A healthy mind and body are essential for exam success. Get enough rest, eat well, and during your preparation. So as I mentioned, the test is 4 hours. So I got there to the testing center around, 6:30. It was a 45-minute drive. I went to go eat breakfast. I had to check in at 7. I was in the seat by 7:30, and I was out of there, I think, about 11 o'clock, give or take. Now, to kind of give you a little bit of backdrop, PMI on the 25th just pushed out that you will not get the test results immediately anymore, that you will have to wait. But reading some of the Reddit posts on PMP, I highly recommend, in circling back to the study group, a lot of the questions that I would have or people would have, I would go on PMP Reddit, and they would pretty much answer any of the questions, or people would post questions and I would chime in based on my knowledge base. So just using that as a resource, of course, that you can have available. Okay, simulate the exam conditions. I already kind of talked about that. So take full practice exams with a timer to get the real feel for the real thing. And I can't stress that enough, is that it's 4 hours. It's a long time. And you're going to be there sitting for a very long, long time in the seat. I had earplugs in plus over the headphones because I just wanted complete silence, because you're going to have other people around you taking different tests at different iterations. So, take your breaks, take your bathroom breaks, take your planned breaks. So that way you can be able to have those sessions to refresh your mind. You are able to bring food. So when you go into the testing center, you can have food in the wall locker, have that, eat, drink, and then, continue on. And so stay confident. Lastly, believe in your preparation and ability to succeed. The PMP exam is challenging, but you got this. And that's what I'm saying, is that if you're scoring 60 to 70% on the actual study hall exams, you're going to at least get a target. I can guarantee you that. But just be cognizant, that you want to have a consistent, probably 65 to 75% on the tests, the practice exams, and the practice questions. So that way you can be able to make sure you're setting yourself up for success when you go into the exam. So armed with these PMP exam tips, you're better equipped to tackle the exam and earn the prestigious certification. So good luck on your journey on becoming a project management professional. And so let's go ahead. We're going to go. I think I got the last slide here. So this is the PMP audio study guide. This is something that I made, as I mentioned to you. It looks like we have a question in the comments. I know we've kind of been going on pretty long, so I've dropped off a lot of people there. So compared to CompTIA exams, is it similar to the type of questions? Are there performance-based questions? Unfortunately, not. Let me plug this in. One thing that my laptop unplugged. So one thing that I can tell you now, I know talking to people that have done CISSP, it's scenario based from a business acumen, but with PMP, I would say 90% of the test is going to be scenario based. You're not going to get questions of, what is a agile framework or what is predictable. Unlike with Network Plus, A Plus, Security Plus, you can get questions that are kind of like one-liner. If this hashing algorithm of AES 256 is implemented, A, B, C, D, what does it do, or how can it, implement into a security infrastructure? It's really hard, to be honest with you, to like compare it to other exams because it's not. It's a tough exam. I mean, you have to put in the work, but I think when you get the mindset, you'll be able to understand those processes, and then you'll be able to understand. And I'm going to share the next one up after this. I'm going to share 30 Rock notes. So I can't highly recommend more this. I mean, honestly, with my app and these notes, you could easily, with a boot camp, you could easily pass this. And I don't want to go too far down, but pretty much this is $16. I'll leave a link in the comments so that way you can source it. But this gentleman here was one that I found on Reddit, and also another Army guy gave me resources to this. But as you can see here, he has my my audio guide as a resource to help. But these are the things, the characteristics of a project manager should always be proactive, a servant leader, and a good stewardship. And then it just breaks down every single thing. And I mean, it's 141 pages. I don't want to get in trouble because for copyright reasons, but I will leave that in the comment. So that way you guys have that available to you as a resource to be able to train with. But yeah, let me go ahead and go to the last slide here. And like I said, I think I've answered a lot of questions. I mean, we're going on 2 hours here. So if anyone has any more questions, by all means, go ahead and leave them in the comments, and then we'll kind of close everything up because we're getting right on the 2 hour mark here. Yep, I know. I'm telling you that the Third Rock notes are extremely useful. So if you got my app, within the app itself, there is a resource tab, and you can click the link to Third Rock notes, and then they're going to be able to provide the link to get. You have to do the buy me coffee, $16. You get the cheat sheet. You get the cheat sheet, and you get the full one. So I can't stress it enough how much they've helped tremendously. So, but I'll stay on the line if anyone else has any questions. As I mentioned, and I'll share my screen for LinkedIn, Saturday, I do have another webinar that I will be hosting. Let me get to the screen here. So Saturday, I will be hosting another webinar. Let me move this down so that way you guys can see it. Okay, so Saturday I will be hosting another webinar. It's unlocking Upwork success and leveraging ChatGPT to land a freelance job. So you guys are welcome to join. What I'm going to go over here is just the basics of understanding Upwork, how to not get scammed. I already got scammed twice on there. And actually, one of the developers that we thought was a scam because he had a fake picture, he got his profile denied, ended up reaching back to us and telling us who he really was. But at that point, we were like, no, man, you already lost our trust. And these are the owners of the company in Dallas that I'm working with. And so I'm going to be hosting this one if you want to attend. Hopefully it isn't as long as this. And I apologize that I've gone on 2 hours here. But ultimately, like I said, this one here for the freelancing. So if you want to build your resume, and that's all I really did for this one. I wasn't even expecting to get like a high paying job. And if I were to work 40 hours with this job, I'd be making more money than I am in the Army. And right now it's pending if we're going to even get paid on the 15th because of the government shutdown. So thank goodness I have a side gig, with University of Louisville and Upwork. But yeah, yep. Thank you. I appreciate, like I said, and that's also additionally, I will be hosting a study group. Let me make sure the dates here are going to be on the 29th of September. So you can go ahead and book on that. And I'm going to do 25 questions, but we're going to break down more of the tests, the questions to answers. And then on top of that, what I'm going to start doing too, with a couple of them. So I have a segment called Hanging Out with Chief. I'm going to start bringing on guests within industry and just talk about life and talk about, what they do in industry, whether they're CEOs. I got Hypora with Jared Shepard. He has an awesome story. Prior infantry enlisted guy and, pretty much a general officer. I'm probably messing up his story, but he was a driver for a general officer, and the general officer pretty much told him, you are wasting your talents in the Army. And pretty much he was. And now he is a CEO of Hypora and also the founder of Warrior Ethos, which is a program that I'm going through. He's an awesome dude. I've met him quite a few times, and I can't speak any more highly of who he is. So I'll be having him on as a guest. And then I'll be bringing on veterans like this gentleman here. Mr. King is a Navy veteran with PMP, and, being able to showcase what he can bring to job recruiters and companies based off of what he was able to accomplish while in the Navy. And so, stay tuned for other ones. I'm trying to bring on my old boss, General Luong, he's now retired. He has a very awesome story too, where he was a Vietnamese refugee in the 70s and ended up becoming a 2-star general before he retired. And, I respect him wholeheartedly. I'm doing my best to try to, work in his calendar because he is a busy man. But hopefully I can bring him on here and just kind of talk one-on-one with him. But like I said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up tonight, and I appreciate everyone's attendance. I lost a lot of people, unfortunately, because this did run pretty long. But I'm happy for everybody that was able to attend. And like I said, I hope you guys got something out of this. And this is something that, as I grow my channel and grow my influence on LinkedIn, what I want to be able to do is use my network to be able to help people build those bridges to opportunities that you may not have. Because at the end of the day, when it comes to jobs, unfortunately, it's not, like I said, it's not about what you know, it's who you know. And I have, like I said, I have the personality to be able to do that. And so I appreciate it. And Ismail, I think you and I were, I don't know if we were stationed we were together somewhere before. I just got to remember where we crossed paths. You're a signal officer. I know that. It's just, I got to remember where you were at. But we know each other somehow, some way. But no, I appreciate everyone's presence. And like I said, connect with me on LinkedIn and, share this video if you can with other people. It's a long video, but I'm hoping that a lot of people got something out of this, and we'll move forward from here. So, all right, guys, I appreciate it and hope you have a good night.